At one point, Ratchet & Clank Up Your Arsenal was the crown jewel of the series, the most respected, most competitive speedrun in the franchise. Today, its leaderboard is a graveyard. Ask around and you'll hear the same story. One trick killed it. This is a box proxy, aka the boxy or boxxy. In this video, I'm breaking down how this trick reshaped Ouya speedrunning. By the end, I'll tell you whether the game is truly ruined or if the community just gave up too soon. This is the story of the trick that ruined Ouya. In order to understand how boxies became so hotly debated, we need to rewind the clock. It's 2020 and the Ratchet 3 scene is on fire. The number of active runners is at its peak. The rivalries are legendary. Hundreds of people tune in daily to watch it all unfold. Because there's one thing that pulls people into this game over anything else: the movement. There's long jumps, side flips, whip jumps, insta-clips, proxies, and frame-perfect charge links. This game is a sandbox of possibilities. Every planet throws a different challenge at the player, demanding a unique cocktail of mechanics and inputs. Newer runners grind for hours just to land basic chains. Veterans carve through levels with hypnotic precision. This game is hard. Everyone in the community knows it, and the dedicated runners love it. And for a long time, we assumed this game would always be hard, until the day when everything changed. April 25th, 2021, a date forever burned into Ratchet speedrunning history. On this day, an unknown glitch hunter named Lashoxcin dropped the discovery that would flip the entire game on its head. Lashoxcin is armed with a weapon called the Suck Cannon. Casually, the Suck Cannon is used to, well, suck things up. Here, he aims it at a box and begins sucking. Then, Lashoxcin cancels the suck animation by swinging the wrench. As a result, the box freezes in midair. He swaps between the suck cannon and the wrench to move the box to his liking. After manipulating the crate a bit, he jumps on top of the now bite-sized box. He whips the suck cannon back out, and as the box gets swallowed, it launches him ever so slightly in the air. Now, it's not every day a random guy finds a new Ratchet trick. This game series is 23 years old, and speedrunners have spent nearly all of that breaking these games open. But in all these 23 years, no one had ever thought to do this. We got Lashoxcin in the Discord that day, and with his help, we broke this trick apart. With a bit of tweaking, we were able to unlock its full potential. Suck the box and tap triangle to switch weapons. Swapping to a different weapon has the same effect as swinging the wrench, and it gives you more control. Then, jump on top of the box and switch weapons again. Now, jump and pull the suck cannon out. And if you time it right, you launch unbelievably far. Over the next 24 hours, 6 different runners tried them everywhere. They took all their best results and made the montage straight from the vault. This montage was a message to the community. Boxies were here, and they were more powerful than we ever dreamed. Now, despite all the excitement, there was one big problem. Boxies weren't consistent. Sometimes you'd get a fast launch with great height, and sometimes you'd get these puny ones. Most times, you didn't get anything at all. This is because of box rotations. As you suck up a box, it spins in the air. When you freeze the box, it stops at a certain rotation. Every time you move the box one frame forward, the rotation changes. Only a few of these rotations are good for boxies, and the rotation the box ends up in is kind of random. Runners tried making it work in runs, but no one really had much success. So everyone moved on. Everyone except Joao. Joao had one mission: skip Marcadia, the slowest, most hated planet in the game. In his journey, he reached a point where boxies were the only option left. So he spent months in the lab, testing every box, every angle, every position. If you want to learn more about this, I have an hour-long documentary on the history of Marcadia that will be linked at the end of the video. This story is a little different. In October 2022, João reached one of many dead ends. He was burnt out, so he decided to have some fun. By now, he had gotten pretty good at boxies, and he wanted to try them somewhere else. He didn't expect much, but almost immediately, he found this. João is on the starship Phoenix, the third level in the game and the central hub of Ouya. You return here again and again throughout the run. On one visit, you're forced to go through VR training. This is a required mission that gives you the coordinates to Dax, the game's 8th planet. Here's the twist. VR training doesn't appear when it unlocks, it's always there. Always loaded, which means if you can somehow reach it early, you can unlock Dax early too. Speedrunners have been doing early VR since 2014, so it's not exactly new, but no one had ever pulled it off using a boxy until João. A few months later, he refined it. He optimized the movement and pieced together what it could look like in actual runs. Then he did something that made everyone stop and pay attention. He released a side-by-side comparison against the fastest VR split ever, and it wasn't even close. He saved 13 seconds. So on January 14th, 2023, we couldn't ignore boxies any longer. There were two runners this mattered to. On one hand, there's me. I had just returned to Ouya after taking a couple years off from the game. Despite my long break, it didn't take long for me to reclaim world record in Ouya's most popular category, NG plus no quit exploit. While I was the most technically sound Ouya player at this time, I had a fundamental weakness. I hated learning new strategies. I'd often wait until everyone else figured things out, and then I'd swoop in like a vulture to steal it. On the other hand, there's Scottobozo. In the 2 years I had stopped playing, Scotto had been giving everyone else the business. He had world record in 4 of the game's 6 main categories, and he wanted to go for the full sweep. His biggest strength as a runner is his willingness to throw himself into new strategies immediately. So while I had the advantage in terms of raw technical skill, his fundamentals were solid and he would implement boxies much faster than me. This rivalry has gone on for nearly a decade and it will get its own videos someday. But as of January 2023, my world record in NG plus no QE is 2703, and both of us have our sights set on the first 26. VR boxy would make this possible, but it would create as many problems as it would solve. This would happen a lot. For VR skip, you start by entering a training module and putting the crate in stasis. You exit the module, then re-enter. The crate you sucked up looks like it's back to normal, but it's still in stasis. You jump on top, double jump, tap triangle a couple of times, and hopefully get a good rotation. 3 rotations worked, sometimes 4. These rotations became our best friends, and we even gave them names. A frame 2 rotation is Susan, frame 3 is Greg with 3 G's, and frame 4 is Anthony. Frame 5 is Jeff, he's cool sometimes. But even if you got one of these rotations, it didn't guarantee success. Sometimes boxies would work, sometimes they wouldn't, and it felt impossible to understand the difference. Some thought it was the jump timing, some thought you had to be on a specific part of the box. Some even thought it depended on how many frames you've been playing the game. Now, jump timing and position do matter, but on the whole, all of these ideas were wrong. At some point, Scotto noticed something unusual. The only time he consistently launched Ratchet was while holding the shot cannon before switching to the suck. Scott reported this information in the Discord, and it attracted the attention of runner and YouTuber Chili PG. Chili took it upon himself to test switching to the suck cannon from nearly every weapon and gadget in the game. The answer was Ratchet's hands.
My daughter tells me you're a man who's good with his hands, Ratchet.
Sir, I swear
Ratchet's weapons come in 3 forms. Most weapons, like the shot cannon or the rhino, are two-handed weapons. The N60 Storm, the Quacko Ray, and the Hypershot are the 3 pistol weapons. And then there's glove weapons, which accounts for all the items Ratchet holds easily in one hand. Which type of weapon you're holding determines how you need to set up your launch. If you use a two-handed setup while holding a pistol weapon, it won't work. With this knowledge, Scotto and I grinded our nuts off for the next 2 weeks. He closed in on world record with a 27-21. I'd get the first 26, yes! And continue all the way down to a 26-27. To this day, this is still one of my best speedruns ever. And after I got this time, I quit. To make a long story short, I hated speedrunning these games. I was burnt out and tired of learning insane new strats year after year just to keep my world records. But instead of being honest with myself and my community, I blamed boxxies. And when the most popular runner in the scene told his whole community that boxxies were terrible, the conversation shifted. People were already iffy on boxxies, but now it became normalized for people to say boxxies ruined the game. But not everyone thought this way. Scotto improved at boxxies and made a full tutorial for VR Skip. He and a few others also kept pushing the boxy meta in other categories. This led to April 2023, when Joao finally cracked Marcadia. He broke the level wide open with a boxy that cut out 4 full minutes of slow, boring missions. And for a brief moment, our worst nightmare was coming true. Boxxies were completely changing the game. But nobody could have predicted what came next. Nothing. From April 2023 to February 2024, one new boxy made it into the route. And it was for all titanium bolts, a category that maybe 2 people were playing. We opened Pandora's boxy, and then we walked away. Everyone except Torbullan. Torbullan started running Ouya in December 2023, well after all the boxy naysayers left the community. And no, that's not what he looks like. I have no idea who that is. Torrbullen wasn't chasing world records, nor was he obsessed with boxxies. He just liked the game, and he wanted to see if he could get any good. But there was one problem. He hated the first planet. Veldin pulls no punches. There's tricky movement like this cactus proxy and the infamous freefall skip. But the real beast? Quark Warp. Quark Warp, or Quarp for short, is an exploit that plagued Ouya speedrunning for over half a decade. Halfway through Veldin, you reach this spot. You line up a charge and go over the cactus. You drift into the abyss and do a hyperstrike recharge off this huge rock. You aim for the exact place where a dropship trigger and a death plane overlap. Hit it perfectly and Ratchet dies inside the dropship, triggering Quarp. Now, when you land on the next planet, you're instantly teleported to Quark, the final boss of the level. You skip the entire planet and save 25 seconds. The problem? It's not consistent. Even if you nail every input, sometimes it just fails. No one knew why. Most runners just accepted it. Quarp was cursed, end of story. But Tor didn't think that was good enough. So one day, he decided he was going to see if it was possible to Quarp with a boxy. To do this, he needed to satisfy 2 conditions. 1. Figure out a consistent boxy from the start of the level all the way to the dropship trigger. 2. Do something to make Quarp not fail? Earlier, I explained how only 3 or 4 box rotations were considered viable. Tor himself was fine with this, but he wanted to find setups for at least 5 rotations. Tor told me this was, quote, for the sake of others, so they can't complain about the trick being precise or hard when it isn't. So he got to labbing, and on April 30th, 2024, after many hours, he had a system. Before he even starts the run, Tor switches the camera into lock strafe. Normally, runners use third-person camera since lock strafe can feel a bit restrictive and hard to use. However, for boxxies, lock strafe is perfect. It gives consistency and control for angles and positioning. When Tor loads into Velden, he uses a one-handed setup with the N60 Storm. He stands at this spot next to this little rock and aims the suck cannon slightly to the right of these crates. This guarantees that he grabs this crate, which is the most reliable one in the stack. Then he positions the camera according to which frame he gets. Frame 9 looks here, frame 10 looks here, frame 11 looks here. Frames 12 through 16 continue fanning leftward. An 8-frame window is massive. You will always hit something in this window with a little bit of practice. Then Tor single hops and hits triangle. The timing matters and it requires some time in the lab to get right. But once he got it down, he solved problem 1. But this still left him with the problem of quark warp. To be as transparent as possible, I can't get into quark much in this video. There's too much context, too much confusion, and way too much general anger for this trick. It needs its own video. For this video, it's best to say that Tor got lucky. Tor's boxy is faster than normal Velden movement, but it avoids the death in the dropship, so in theory, it can't trigger quark. But after doing a bit of digging in the Discord, he just found the answer. After skipping the dropship free fall, enemies spawn all around you. Normally, we would ignore all the enemies and skip to the end. For whatever reason, killing the first wave of enemies and then skipping to the end makes Quarp work consistently. But with this consistent Quarp setup, the entire puzzle fell into place. Tor's boxy made Velden easier and faster, saving 5 seconds over the fastest Veldens at the time. Tor didn't just change Velden, he changed the entire game. Tor's boxy setups became the community gold standard. The remaining Ouya runners took them and went to work, tearing through level after level. In NG Plus No QE alone, there are now 10 different boxies across 7 of the game's 16 levels. And the results? Thanks to boxies and a couple other breakthroughs, the world record didn't just get shaved down. It plummeted from 26 minutes to 19. To this day, people still say boxies ruined the game, and I still feel responsible for a lot of that. So I'd like to set the record straight. 2.5 years ago, I quit, but in August, I came back. I've been trying out boxies, and trying, and trying, and trying. So far, mostly, I've been failing, but I've also gotten a lot better. And you know what? I think I kinda like them. The argument people have against boxies is that they replace amazing movement with variations of the same trick. There is truth to this, but there's as many levels made worse by boxies that were made way better by boxies too. I mean, hell, they sure as shit beat resetting on Velden or sitting on Marcadia Mission 4 for 2 minutes with a thumb up my ass. Boxies didn't ruin this game. Our shitty attitudes did. Most of the runners who left during the Exodus never gave boxies a real chance. They didn't take the time to learn the setups, got frustrated, and dipped. In Dark Souls terms, that's called a skill issue. But honestly, that's nothing new for this community. Ouya runners have a long history of complaining instead of improving. Back in the day, people swore they'd never touch the game until we found Marcadia Skip. Then, Joao did find it, and guess how many of those people actually picked the game up? 0. After that, people cried for a category without boxies. So the mods created one, and only 5 people played it. But if you ask the ones who stayed, the ones who labbed and learned and believed, they'll tell you the truth. They'll say, we haven't even scratched the surface. That boxies are a door we've only just opened. Think about it, almost everything we know about this trick came from one runner. And even he admits we're still at the beginning. There are maybe 3 people alive who understand boxxys. Imagine what could happen with 5 or 10 or 100. We are not at the end of Ouya's journey. We're just at the beginning of the next chapter. As of October 22nd, 2025, there's a new mod called Suckman that lets us specifically train boxxys. It has never been easier to learn the ins and outs of this trick yourself. In the description, there will be a link to the Ratchet Clank speedrunning Discord. You can download Suckman there, and the runners will even help you install it. And now, I have one last thing to show you all. I reached out to Lashoxcin and asked him how he feels about the state of boxxys. And he said he's proud. It's like, that's my son. Thanks for everything, Lashoxcin. And thank you all for watching. Shoutouts to my patrons for your continued support. I can proudly say I edited this entire video myself, with some guidance from my amazing mentor Shawn, of course. And I can't wait to make more. Bomboclat! Okay, we go again.